So first and foremost, mail. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce back and forth between Mac OS Mail, we'll just call it Mail, and then on the iOS device, both iPad and iPhone, I'll call it iOS Mail, and you should be able to see up on the screen. And I'm so many things now are becoming similar between the two operating systems, which is very good because in Mail we have preferences, in iOS 7 we have settings, and on the iOS device. So what I'm going to do is go through predominantly with Mail first. We're going to go through the Mac, and I know 2 of you have your Macs with you. The rest of you, it's stuff that you'll be able to find quite easily, and you'll be able to use the video if you need to. So, oh, yeah. All right. So Apple Mail, thank you. I have 2 square payments that came in by mail already. So the first thing I want to show you is when Apple ships mail, I don't know if you remember what mail used to look like. It used to have a bunch of icons at the top, and they were in neat colors and things like that. Well, you know, Apple's so good at the graphical user interface, and they really look out for how things should look. So they made them all gray and made them all look the same and took the words off from underneath them. So this is how it ships. Anybody that's had me work on their mail, I have gone up to the menu bar up here and hit Control-click, and I make it icon and text. Because how in the heck are you supposed to know what all those little icons mean? So again, I'll repeat that. If you Control-click on the gray area, it starts as icon and text. I'm sorry, icons only, but I change it to icon and text. And a lot of you, I'll sit down at your computer and you won't even know that I've done that. But it just makes it so much more usable.
Can you
Control-click when you're in the gray area. Control-click. You know what? Let's show you a little different way to do that since we're on this. We're going to go up to View and come down to Customize Toolbar. And now, customizing the toolbar is unfortunately not anything you can do on your iOS device, but if you'll notice down here in the corner it says Show Icon in Text. View, Customize Toolbar. And there's a ton of choices here. And I've added a few. If you'll notice right here, this is the default. In fact, here's how it looks when Apple ships it. It is like this with Get Mail, New Message. This is considered the default toolbar. So if your toolbar gets all screwed up, all you do is grab this toolbar and move it right up to the top, and it will replace it with the default toolbar. So that's the default. I've had some people where their search disappears, you know, this very, very capable search disappears. The other things you have here is you have an icon up here, Add to Contacts, Add Sender, little address book icon. All of those things, if I want to do that, like I don't have a print command up there. Oh, I do. Let's take my print command off. And if I want to put a print command up there, I drag my printer up there and let go. So this is a palette of tools that I can put up in my toolbar. Hence why it's called toolbar.
What do you suggest?
You know, it depends, but the funny thing is, it's different on every screen because this is the main mail screen, okay? This is the main mail screen. So you don't necessarily need to work with bigger and font. You can do your fonts. Let's hit this.
But I don't have address or add sender.
Okay, address is address book. Watch what happens when I click on that. It's a mini copy of my address book, all right?
So it's good to have it with them?
It's not bad, but you really only need it in the next window we're going to show you. So, add sender is very good also because let's say here's Rocky La Rochelle. I can click here and that would automatically add that sender to my address book. Okay? So let's go back to look at Customize Toolbar and let's talk about all these different
I don't
icons.
see add sender.
How about add to contacts?
Add to contacts.
Yeah, what happens is it's that they've changed it. Mine has legacy up there, so add to contacts is what it is. Going from the top, delete is just what it says. So if you look in the stock one, we have get mail, new message, delete, junk, reply, reply all, forward, flag, and search. Added to that, we have archive. If you want to archive the message, I think hardly anybody does that. The reply stuff is all the same. Flag. Now, move. Do many of you use folders for your mail? A lot of different folders? So you can move mail to a folder this way when you click on move and pull it down to a folder. Okay? I think it's a lot easier to just drag it. Okay? Copy, if you're going to copy it to a folder. So there's a difference between moving to a folder and copying to a folder. So if I take an email and I move it to a folder, it's no longer in my inbox. If I hold the Option key, everywhere on the Mac, the Option key usually means copy it. So let's watch what happens. Here's Rocky's email to me. If I start to drag it, say to VIPs, or to, let's say, this folder right here, Historics, okay? It just would move it. In fact, let's do that, and I'll hit Command-Z to bring it back. But if I hold the Option key, I get a little green plus sign, and that leaves it in the inbox and puts a copy in that folder. Okay? Depends. I have a tendency when I put stuff in folders, I kind of forget about them. And as a kid, I used to sweep things into the closet, and my room was clean. Sean says, no, not just as a kid, because Sean was a roommate of mine for many years. So he says, hell, it didn't even make it into the closet usually. So thank you for being quiet about that, Sean.
No problem.
I'm indicting myself, and that's okay. So we'll go back up to View, Customize Toolbar. Some of the other things are, that sidebar means just expose the sidebar or don't expose the sidebar, which you can do right here by hide. Print's not a bad one. You know, Command P or File Print, but if you have the printer icon there, it'll immediately bring up a print screen. Don't worry about all headers. Unread, read, you can key that thing. Let's say you read an email, but you want it to show up and still look unread. You could hit the unread button. We don't need to worry about take all accounts offline. Smaller and bigger, that's a great one to have up there, because how many times does somebody send you something sometimes and you can't read the font? Look at my screen here. I'm hitting bigger, 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 up to a point. Okay? So I've put smaller and bigger up there, which actually works well when you're composing an email also. Okay. Now, if we go up to New Message, you'll notice my toolbar is completely different, because the toolbar is contextual to whatever you're doing, and this applies to an iPad and everything else. So I can customize this toolbar, because the other toolbar was for our main mail screen. So if I go here, you can see here's the default again. Here's smaller and bigger. Don't worry about rich text, plain text format. Lists, if you're making a list. A link, a hyperlink, if you want to make a hyperlink. The Apple Mail already does that automatically. Don't worry about flexible space. What flexible space is not for your mail. What that is you can insert a little divider up here. If I want to make watch what happens here between address and attach. I move flexible space there, and see I can adjust the it's flexible space, but we don't want that.
So we don't have the top bar here on our iPads, right?
You can't change this on the iPad, and this is Apple's simplifying of everything.
Okay, I just didn't have
It doesn't work on iOS.
Oh.
iOS is what you see is what you get, and that's it. They've simplified it. Okay.
Still giving you fewer options.
The other, what's that?
Still giving you
Fewer
fewer options.
options on the iPad?
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So I just put the default up there, and this is the default I have up here on the window right now. So I drug this up here, and now I'm going to put up there, I want format. So I'm moving the format. That's, of course, your text formatting. I want like bold, text size, formatting, yeah, font. The other thing I want up there, smaller and bigger. And that's about all I want up there because I already have photo browser and stationery. And it has the send button over here on the left. Okay? So now it's customized. Now, you'll notice I can't make the font bigger and smaller right now because I'm in the address bar. When I come down to the body, oh, hang on, that doesn't work here. Yeah, my fault. Let's get rid of that. Customize toolbar. Actually, hang on here. Let's see what happens. Yeah, that's weird. So if I don't like that up there, I simply drag it off. I'm clicking and dragging and just poof. Okay? Want to see that? I'll put smaller, bigger up there. Now, I grab it while in Customize Toolbar, watch the screen, poof, away it goes. I took the bigger and larger up because it doesn't work on this. But you'll notice here I have format. And this is key because a lot of you want to put formatting tools. See that little, see the header there? Watch the screen. I'm hitting format. Normally you don't see the format bar. This stuff. Normally that's not there. Yeah, you can activate it, but the other one we want is okay. So with the format bar, you have all your choices for text. This didn't used to be this way. I think in iOS 7 is when this started. I'm sorry, iOS 7, excuse me. 10.7 on the Mac. These numbers, they need to coincide. But anyway, that's all your thing. The other thing is, if you really want to adjust your text, you can go Command-T, or if you'll notice, Command-T gets you Show Fonts. Right there.
I remember at one of the workshops you told us, don't make the emails too fancy because other people may not receive it. So what are some formatting things are safe to use and might complicate it to make it unreadable?
The safest ones are popular fonts like the Helveticas, Monacos, Arial is a good one. Fonts like that, because realistically, and the thing is if you want something fancy in an email, you need to make it an image and send the image, or send a PDF. Yes, very good. Because the problem is, you can do all this work and they can't see it. So my signature, for instance, and we're going to go over signatures, my signature is got 2 images in it, but the rest is fairly simple text.
What about just bolds and underlines?
Bolds and underlines will work most of the time, probably 90% of the time. Some email programs, but more particularly, remember, a lot of people view it on the web. There's a lot of people like on a PC, they don't use Outlook. They just go to the web browser explorer and see it, and it depends on their email whether they can see it or not. So, and the other thing is like, so when this goes to a PC person, these show up as images, and PC people, if they're smart, learn they shouldn't really open any images. But us on the Mac can do it. But that's why a PDF is so safe. That's different. That's collaboration, and believe it or not, that's getting better now. We do that on the cloud. So news, you guys didn't. I don't know if you heard, but if you have somebody with a PC, they can go to iCloud.com, sign up for a free iCloud account, and get Pages and Numbers and Keynote in a browser. In a browser, so you could send them a document, and they could open it in there and work on it, and it can still be saved as a Word document, etc. If you do a lot of collaboration with someone else and they need to have interactivity between Word and stuff, Pages and Numbers will work quite well. But to be honest, Google Docs is the best. And then you can supply different permissions to people to collaborate on it. Google, yeah, it's actually, I'm sorry, and it's Google Docs, but now it's part of what's called Google Drive, which is the free space you get with your Gmail address.
Excuse me, there's Keynote Pages and what else?
Keynote Pages and Numbers. Remember the iWork suite?
Numbers.
Well, yeah. We're going to have plenty of time today. Let's just show you this because it's amazing. So, I'm going to iCloud.com. I'll sign in with my Apple ID. And I can go in here in a browser, even if I'm on a PC, and I can work on Pages documents. But those of you that use Pages and Numbers and Keynote, remember the instant alpha where you can move the background and stuff? That doesn't work on this. But most of the other stuff does. In the next time we do a Pages class, you'll see this. But the cool thing here is you can make a document here and then share it with someone else. Like here was my Vote for Ken speech. Let's see. Oh, so here's this. So here's this document, and it's loading. And this is in the browser, right? And it's free. It's free. It's free. And if you buy a new Apple device from a week ago forward, it will come, whether it be an iPhone, an iPad, or a computer, it will come with iWork for free included now. You used to pay on the device and used to pay on the Mac. They're not. So if I go up here and hit share, this is from the web. I can share it in Pages, PDF, or Word format right from the web. So in essence, if they sign up for a free iCloud account, you can send it back and forth to them and they can work on it in Pages. The other thing that comes up is, like, especially in Keynote, but somewhat in Pages, yes, it's compatible with Word and with PowerPoint, but they have inherently much more capability. So if you do some fancy stuff, don't count on the other person being able to see it. And that brings up the whole deal of fonts. In fact, I have this logo that I did in one font, and that font isn't available on my iPad. And it puts it down to a more generic font. And the web uses more generic fonts also. So, go ahead.
Oh, just go back to iPhone one of those stuff and Google hasn't figured out.
No, it just means I haven't covered it enough. That's not you.
Well, no.
Okay, you can take the blame if you want. You fall on the sword. That's okay.
So I do Word. I still use Word.
Oh, that's fine.
PowerPoint more than,
Yeah, if you want your computer to run slow,
So
yeah.
did you just say you can? Is that
Oh gosh, it's. But that's okay.
These guys,
You're asking about Word and
Oh,
PowerPoint?
yeah, so will the drop back drops down from iCloud that allows me to forward from the cloud? Is it just on
Yeah.
Word and PowerPoint? And
So in Keynote, you would have the option of Keynote, PDF, or PowerPoint, which is very similar to how the app already has it. It's a simple matter of converting it. So again, if you make a really nice presentation in Keynote, those transitions may not go over, to be honest, I think what Apple has done is they've dumbed down the online version a little bit so that it will be compatible. Because otherwise, you're gonna, all those Macs aren't compatible with anything, But what they're doing here is they're doing battle with Microsoft. If you have Microsoft stock, you should sell it because they're losing Google is fighting them like crazy, and Google offers the equivalent of Microsoft Office for free. There's an app you can get for your iPhone and your iOS called Quick Office that's free. And now Pages, Numbers, and Keynote is free. So who needs to pay Microsoft anymore? Sure, question.
Okay. So to eliminate the problem of someone getting your email and not having the font, can you drag your keynote presentation onto your desktop, take a picture of it, and then send it?
Yeah, well, you can also send it as a PDF.
So as a PDF, the font will show up?
Yes, a PDF is equivalent to like a screenshot, but it does some nice formatting and stuff. So the PDF, the way I tell you, PDF's like taking a photo of what it is. In fact, just how it would print on your printer, it'd be like if you did that. Yeah.
I kept thinking these cards that I send out, that maybe people aren't seeing the font.
Are you sending it as a PDF or what?
Oh, yeah, always.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a snapshot.
Okay.
It's only if, like in Word, or actually even let's say you do a really fancy keynote and you send it to me. In Keynote, if I don't have that particular font, it's not going to look right. So then you're better off sending it as a PDF, which is a snapshot of what it is. So you're fine. No, PDF is that's the beauty of it on the Mac. And on a PC, you have to pay like $400. Actually, they finally in Windows 8 made it so it's got PDF native in it. All right, so that's the toolbar, and I think the toolbar's it's just useful. And put anything that you want that would be useful up there for you. So, but more particularly, if you only have the icons like this, go fix it. And if you fix it on this screen, it doesn't mean it fixed it on reply or new message. You have to check all the screens to make sure the icon and text is exposed. Because look at those. I mean, who knows what those mean? It's not like we have to pay extra to have the words underneath. I think Apple, it sometimes gets too minimalist. Okay?
Yeah, I think the iPad right here now is really.
It always has.
Yeah.
And what's really ironic is all the different languages are built into these devices. So it's already there. It's just Apple's trying to give you a cleaner screen.
Is it on the iPad too? I'm sorry.
You don't have icon and text on the iPad. Just icons. But you don't have as many choices, or when you have choices, you have to drill down. Let's look at this on the iPad, for instance. So if I go to Mail on the iPad, and you can see here, so if I hit Reply, Reply, I don't get a lot of different choices on there because there's not a lot you can do. You can reply, you can, you don't have a lot of text choices either, and that's good because it's very generic.
Are you going to talk about threads?
Yes, that's on my list.
Okay, I'm looking for an email and it's in berries.
Yep. We're threads and conversations, yes. Let's work our way through. Oh, the other thing here is when Apple ships mail, this is how it's looking now. I will get it set up to how it was. Just like this. And it's pretty much like it is on the iPad. So the first thing I do, because I have multiple boxes, I want to show the boxes over here. But we remember how mail used to look. So I go up to Mail, Preferences, and I say, under Viewing, Classic Layout. And that's the way it was before. If you'll notice, the messages can be previewed down below. What the whole idea is when they ship it, when you upgrade to 10.8, even 10.7, they wanted to make it look more like the iPad, not because of us, but because of people that have never had a Mac buy an iPad, and they're used to how the iPad works, looks, and feels. And if we switch here, you can...
Did you say you want to use classic?
I like Classic. I like having it this way, but you have a choice there.
So what's the difference?
Let's go back. Okay, so let's go back to Preferences. I will turn off Classic View, and I will do this. This is how it ships. Now look at that, and look at that. It looks the same, right? In fact, let's get on the same email. Rocky. So there's that mail, and there's that mail. That's funny because they're in different colors. See how they are the same?
Oh, the same.
Right? So I like to have show because I have multiple email boxes. And I then go to Preferences in Mail. And I'm an old fuddy-duddy, and I use my Classic View. See the difference between... Look behind the scenes here. Here's Classic View. Here's not Classic View. See how the message is on the right-hand side instead of underneath. Okay, we're going to go through all of these preferences here. This is the old way. Classic, that's why Classic. Yeah, and you can click on this and you get to see it right down below here and things like that. So. Correct. But the other way is to, the other way was to mimic what it looks like on the iPad. Because on the iPad, I can go back to mailboxes and then click in the inbox, and then I have it across the same way. That's up to, it's all personal preference.
It's just a tiny thing at the bottom. It's hard to...
Well, but that's how I've always done it.
Got it.
Like that. I mean, I can go I can just click up here and just look at, believe me, for most emails, the first 3 sentences are, you can get into the crux of it. So, and that's Classic View, Kathy.
I'm in it, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Hey, if you're used to the other, no, stay with it. This was more for people that were very used to the other and very set in their ways.
Well, plus you said the magic word. I have more and more time to get all my devices to kind of look at.
And and I agree completely.
So
see, I have a little difference because when I use my Mac at home, I have 2 screens. Where was what?
Was it under View? How did you...
Classic. No, it's under Preferences.
Okay.
Oh, you don't have any email account set up on there? You usually use Safari? We can get that fixed up for you. If you have your email password. So yeah, so you're in Classic. Now you're not in Classic.
Is the email password the same as your Apple password?
I'm sorry?
The email password, is it the same?
If it's a Mac, so Shirley's question is your email password the same? If it's a Mac.com or a me.com or an iCloud.com, yes, it's the same password you use for everywhere. Password hell. It's going to be fixed here real soon, you guys.
Fixed?
Yeah.
You have to buy a new device and have a fingerprint?
Well, that really fixes it, but Apple is introducing keychain in the cloud.
Yay! Oh my God.
And it's been real quiet, so I don't know what's happening with it. Indications are that they're going to wait till Mavericks is out, which is 10.9, and because it interacts between the two as well. Because if I go to Bob's Burgers online ordering and have put a username and password in on my iPhone, and later I go to bobsburgers.com and want to do an online order from my Mac, I want it to automatically fill in my username and password, and that's what Keychain in the Cloud will do for us. And I'm going to cover a little bit of tippy toes on that tomorrow in the iOS 7 class.
Are you going to go over the options of reviewing and the preferences?
Yeah, I'm going to go through all the preferences right now because Classic View was the next thing. So, Mail, Preferences, and we're going to start from the left-hand side. If your thing's already set, go for it. Don't worry about it. But I want to show you what some of these mean, or what most of these mean. Default email reader, if you have Outlook or something else, that's all that is. You want it set for mail. You want that to be default. Check for new messages. That's how often does it ping the server. If you have a really slow internet, You can change that if you want. You can always hit Get Mail. Let's say I set this to every 30 minutes. But if I go up and click Get Mail, it will force it to check it right then. So that's kind of your own preference. New mail sound. You know, I've had some reports and a lot of people, sometimes the message sound hasn't been working. I think Apple's working on that. But you can change what sound you want your new mail to make. I used to like glass. I'm going to probably change mine to glass. I like that one. Play sounds for other mail actions. That we all love the swish when mail goes, right? So that's what that is. Dock unread count. So over on your dock, you can almost see it. The little red badge that shows you how many unread messages you have. You can tell it to do all mailboxes or inbox only. At this point, we can't turn it off. Actually, hang on. Okay, so it's funny. There used to be a way to not show it. They've deleted that. So, like me, I have a ton. It's weird because I have some duplicates in here is why I show so many unread. So, new message notifications. Sean, are you able to just send me a quick email? So I can have, what's going to happen is notifications is going to pop up here, right up in the corner right up here, when I get new mail. And what these notifications are, I can say, only from contacts, from all mailboxes, or inbox only. So this is handling my notifications screen. And when Sean gets the new email to me, it should pop right up here in the corner. Shirley, go ahead.
I have a couple of emails that show on the desktop, but they aren't. They must be 6 months old. They've been on there, and I have no idea where they are.
On your computer?
Yeah.
And they're the actual email?
They're emails that somewhere along the line I didn't open. And
you probably drug them over to the desktop, and that copied them to your desktop. So I could play the Jeopardy theme song now. Of course, the email is probably a little slow because the internet's being a little laggy. But Shirley, what you want, there it is. And see, here's the little notification. So that just is what this indication is, new messages. The next one is add invitations to calendar. Now, what this means is if I send you from calendar an invite to a meeting, or that, hey, we've got such and such scheduled. Believe it or not, Siri does that automatically sometimes. You may get emails from me if we have an appointment coming up. You may get a calendar invite, okay? So when it comes to your mail, you can have it automatically add invitations to the calendar or never, okay? I choose to let it shows up in my calendar. It says if I want to accept it or not. But it would be in the email, and you would just have to click on it and add to calendar. We're going to show you some really, after the break probably is when we'll get into some cool tricks about how you can add things to your email from an email message. Downloads folder, this should be to download. So we all get little pictures attached to it, or files, or little videos. Downloads is the best place. It used to download it to the desktop. But our desktops used to get so cluttered. So it does it to a downloads folder, and I recommend that's where you keep it. So I'll show you. So the question is, where is the downloads folder? If I click on the first thing in your dock, the happy smiley finder face. By the way, who here has their dock on the left? And who has their dock on the bottom? Okay. Pete likes it on the bottom because that's the way Apple sent it. Yeah, but Apple makes it so we can modify it. I always tell people the screen is built just like me. It's wider than it is tall. And I have lots of extra space on both sides. But this space on the bottom is at a premium. I love my dock on the left. You have too many of them like I do.
Oh, they just automatically.
Well, no, I've added them there, and I should go through and trim it, but realistically these days, when I go find my apps, I just go up to Spotlight and type in my app name. I hardly use the dock anymore.
How do you get it to the
Here's how you go up to your dock. Apple logo, dock, and say position on left. Like when you're doing, like you do a lot of photos, you do a lot of videos. But you see how easy it is to send back. But the whole idea is, especially in Safari, you end up bumping into the bottom.
Yeah, that's lovely. Or I'll, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and it'll take a week to get used to it. But
I like it.
so remove unedited downloads. In other words, if somebody sends you a little video, if you don't do anything with that video, when you delete the message, it'll take the video with it. It just saves room in your box. Okay? The other options are never, or when mail quits, just delete the download. I like it if the message is deleted, because how many times has somebody sent you a video you want to go back and see? So you don't want it when mail quits. You just want to do it after. If you delete the message, it'll delete the video. And just leave this, show alternate list of servers. Now, this is one very important setting here that does not come from Apple. When searching all mailboxes, and we're going to talk about the search in a minute, I want it to say junk also. It usually just searches trash, but how many times has an errant message gone to junk and you're going and using the search bar and it doesn't get, you can't find it. So make sure you select junk. It's not selected from the initial factory. Got it? We good there, everybody? Please, you guys, it's a small group. If we're not following it, let me know. You know, who's your email provider? Do you have a Gmail account or anything like that on yours? Yeah. Do you have Gmail, or you just have your Cable One or whatever it is? Frontier. Because you know, let's activate your mail during the break, okay? Because it's a lot harder to follow along if you don't have it on here. And actually, what we're going to, well, ironically, we're going to go over to iOS in a few minutes, so you do have that on your iPad. So back here is accounts. Sure.
That last one, searching on that. Well, tell me, this is more appropriate later. So one laborious problem I'm having is that when I delete from trash things on the iMac, it doesn't seem to get translated to any of the devices. So I'm forever deleting from each device.
Who's your email provider?
Comments.
Okay.
And I know sometimes it's kind of like pop. It shouldn't be iPop.
Because you have pop.
iPop instead of.
Okay. Time for me to get on my soapbox and start a rant. I didn't do this to do my election, but I'll get up on my soapbox here. Okay. It's imperative that you do not use your internet provider for your email. Well, Ken, it's free. They give it to me. Yeah. Well, you're paying for the service. They include it with the service. But what happens when Bob and Joe's super fast internet comes along for 3 times the speed at 1/3 the price? Well, you know, it'd be nice to go with that new service that does all this. It washes my car. It does everything else. But I got this email address, and I've had it forever, and I don't want to lose this account. You can get a free iCloud account from Apple. But even though that's a good account, and you need that for other things, but I recommend a Gmail account. And it will fix what your problem is. The problem is we have multiple devices. Multiple Macs, multiple iOS devices. You need what's called an IMAP account. IMAP, and Comcast, by the way, is rolling it out. We can adjust your Comcast. They've just rolled it out recently only because Windows 8 doesn't support POP. They finally had to support IMAP. And I'll have to make sure that it's verified. I read that 2 months ago. So what IMAP does is it says, you know, we have these little blue dots. Well, for instance, okay, let's look at my screen here. Sean sent me that email, right? There's the top email. It has a blue dot that Sean sent me. So we'll look at my iPad. I'm going back, And I'm going to tap on the email from Sean. Look at the blue dot went away on my Mac.
Yeah, that's what
If I forward this, actually I should hit reply. Thank you for being my guinea pig! Exclamation mark. So there's a little arrow, and look at that, my little reply arrow.
that's what I'm missing. Okay, so you're saying this is remedied by...
You can remedy it two ways.
Okay.
One way is to have us activate IMAP on your Comcast account, or stop giving out your Comcast email. You can have your Comcast forwarded to a new Gmail account you set up, and you'll just check your Gmail, and all your Comcast stuff will come there.
I'm not because of all those things that you're saying, because it's my address for so long.
But it still will be.
No, the other one is...
It'll
Isn't it something at me.com?
Yeah, or you can get a Gmail. What I'm saying is, okay, are you living in your house forever? Forever, forever? What happens if you get old and you have to go to a home and they only have AT&T?
Right.
Are you going to continue to pay your Comcast bill for...
Well, when I travel, I use Yahoo instead of email, but it's been compromised, so
Yahoo's the worst. I didn't say Comcast was bad.
Uh-huh.
I said you shouldn't be tied to your internet provider.
Yeah.
Yahoo is garbage. Get rid of Yahoo. They are the worst. I make lots of money off you people that have Yahoo addresses. Trust me, I really
Because of
do.
what? Because of security breaches?
Because of all the problems with their server, it's always having different issues. Yahoo is a great company doing some great things these days, but their mail sucks. Go ahead.
I have a little bit of a related question. My iPad, I have email turned off. And somehow,
On purpose?
no, I'm assuming you don't do what you tell me. You know? So then it doesn't do that. Obviously.
Let me check it. Let me see. We'll see
I'll
during
turn it on. I mean, I get, and maybe it's when I
the
travel.
IMAP, maybe.
No, I was looking under preferences and the email.
It should be under preferences.
Yeah, and I think I just had it turned off, and I thought, well, Ken must have told me that.
Oh, there might have been one in a certain account. So was it there? No. Yeah, iCloud we don't have something there. We just have your Gmail.
So yeah,
Is that your main one, your Gmail?
yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's why. It's off in the first account because you don't use that, you use the other one.
Can you do this, activate the IMAP and Comcast account today? Is that something you just do with some clicks and...
I'd probably have to do it with a screen share because there's some settings to do, and I won't do it unless you have a current time machine backup. So, all right, and again, IMAP is Gmail, Apple iCloud, and again, SureWest is doing it now. It just makes it easy because we have so many devices. How many times do you pick up your other device and go, man, I read that email. How come it's got a blue dot on it? You just saw how well that works, and this is how it's supposed to work. The weird thing is mail doesn't sync. Everything else we do syncs. What mail is, it's this little post office up here, and Sean sent me a mail to my post office, and Apple Mail went to the post office and said, oh, give me a copy of that mail. And my iPad went out to the post office and said, give me a copy of the mail. They didn't sync together. They both went to the post office and said, give me a copy. Now, what's the equivalent of going to the post office? The equivalent of that is logging into Safari, like you do with your Yahoo probably, and going right to yahoo.com or going to Comcast and looking right at your messages there. If you delete it there, and it never made it to these devices, it won't make it. So, mail doesn't sync. Everything checks with the server. And everybody's all intimidated about the cloud and everything these days. We've been using the cloud forever. That's what mail is. Okay. So, I'm back off the rant. I'm settled down. It's more for you and for the future. And I got to tell you, I started with Comcast years ago. When I lived at Swallow's Nest, where we used to have the classes over there, the only thing I had was dial-up, and it was terribly slow. Comcast came out and they said, well, we're offering you service. I said, God, sign me up. I was one of the first ones. I went and bought a modem and everything. Modems were $199 back then, but they gave me a $199 rebate. So anyway, you signed up and they said, well, okay, but we're not going to handle the mail. You're going to use a thing called At Home. So my email could have been kenspencer@home.com. So that would be great. But luckily I had kenspencer.com, so I didn't have to do anything like that. So then a little while later they said, well, At Home got bought by Excite. So then everybody that had Comcast had to change their email address to blah, blah, blah at excite.com. Even though they could have fixed it on their end, everybody had to change their email address. Then Comcast decided they were going to do it. So it was Excite went to blah, blah, blah at comcast.net. Then before AT&T really rolled out DSL and high-speed internet, I don't know if you remember, but your Comcast address was ATTBI. AT&T Broadband Internet was who was using, they were the email service for Comcast. People had to change again. Finally, it went back to Comcast. So if you'd been with Comcast over those years, you would have had to tell people 5 different times what your email address was. That's not fun. If you'd had Gmail the whole time, you'd have never had to change it at all. Okay. So Gmail's so easy, and it's so versatile, and you get all this document things we were talking about. You get, with your Gmail address, you get the Google Drive, you can store stuff on it, but you can get the free access to the docs.
So when I get a change address, I put it in my address.
Uh-huh.
But when I send them an email, the drop-down menu still has the old one.
That's on my list right after preferences and signatures, and it's very pertinent and it's very important. And now that's worth the price of admission right there, because that's huge. All right, so let's go back to our preferences. And on these accounts, we really don't do anything on this first page. But the next account, I'll just go to my Gmail. And in mailbox behaviors. Oh, by the way, in account information, where it says description, you can make the description whatever you want. That's simply for your own edification. If you have 3 Gmail accounts, you don't want them all to say Gmail. You'd say Gmail this name, Gmail this name, Gmail this name, for your own description. Now, the email address does not have to correspond to the username, but that's a little tricky thing. But we're going to go next to mailbox behaviors. Oh, that's funny that I do have this done. Usually you can deselect store drafts on servers, because there's no reason if you're making a draft, does it need to be stored on the server. In fact, sometimes it does duplicates. This is a seldom used account of mine. The other one is store sent messages on the server. Now that we have multiple devices, if you send an email from your Mac, but you want to access it on your iPad, you want to see if you've sent it. So storing messages on server is good, on server, and just don't ever delete them, because with Gmail you get so much space you never have to delete anything with Gmail. Junk. There's no need to store the junk messages on the server. And we'll talk about junk in a minute. But this is one setting I don't have on this account because this is seldom used. But you do want to set your junk to, excuse me, you do want to set your junk mail setting to delete after 1 month. And we're going to explain that right now. So, what is junk mail? Junk mail, so we all get a ton of spam, right? If you have, that's another reason to have Gmail. It has the best spam filter going. The best. But what happens is some spam gets through. And Apple Mail can further filter that spam for you. So, I'm going to go to my junk folder. And I have junk from Mac Mall, from Amazon, from Price Plunge, from Best Buy, etc., which isn't really spam. I have at one time or another signed up for these. and I want them. And a perfect example is J.C. Penney. J.C. Penney is how I enter the mall to go to the Apple store. So, if I need to get some shorts, and I know I'm going to the Apple store, I'll go to my junk and look for J.C. Penney and see what the latest ad is. I use it as a tool. I don't want my Gmail account to filter it out. I want to get it, but I don't want it in my inbox. I want to send it to my junk folder. It's a tool. And after 30 days, it disappears from my junk folder because I have that setting. So, if something gets in your junk folder that's not junk, I've sent myself mail to a different account and it shows up as junk. You have to tell it it's not junk. Now, that brings up another point. Let's say you do get some spam. Let's see. I'm sure I probably have some spam here. So let's say, oh, this No More Rack event. This I hate. I didn't sign up for this. I bought something from it one time. So this shows right here. No more rack, whatever it's called. I want it. I don't want to see it. So I could delete it right now, but mail would never learn that it's junk. So you have to tell it it's junk, and it will learn. It's artificial intelligence. It'll say, "Oh yeah." Now there's ways that they can trick it, but it really helps a lot. So I'm going to say, that one is junk. It's no longer in my inbox, and hopefully it'll no longer come to my inbox. So junk is a secondary filter, but don't think of it just as a spam thing. Use it as a tool. You know, you subscribe to Land's End, let's say. Well, you don't really need Land's End type clothing till it gets to be winter. So you decide, oh, I'll go and see. I'm getting ready to buy some Christmas gifts or something. So I'll go in to look at the previous things in the junk folder. And when you go to settings, one sec, my junk settings, for instance here, I tell it to delete junk messages after 1 month old. That way I don't have to go into the junk folder and say, oh gosh, it's getting really full. Anything that's in my junk folder, if it's older than 30 days, it's probably not relevant. So I just tell it to clear it out. Kathy, you had a question?
Okay, I can unsubscribe from everything.
No. Don't unsubscribe from everything.
Well,
Okay, that's fine.
no.
Reputable people you can unsubscribe from.
Oh,
Do not unsubscribe from someone you're not sure about. Because then they say, oh, look, we got a real email address. We can start spamming her like crazy.
okay. But you have to unsubscribe here and here, or are they
No.
not?
So here's how unsubscribe works.
On my iPhone.
If you get an email and you say unsubscribe, you're actually replying to them and saying, take me off your mailing list.
Right.
And it's done for everything. As long as it's the same email address. If you have multiple email addresses. Now, it won't always unsubscribe because it depends on who it is. So are you getting it? Is there one you unsubscribed and you're getting it on multiple
But
devices?
sometimes they do say this will may take a few days.
Yeah.
It seems like I get coupons here and here, whatever.
If you unsubscribe, as long as you're on the correct email address, you might have multiple email addresses that they come to. But Groupon,
No,
if you unsubscribe, it should unsubscribe you. And that's actually just real good etiquette on their part. Ticketmaster, I keep getting this stuff from Stockton. Sean and I and a couple other people go down to watch the hockey games in Stockton every so often. And I one time bought a ticket there, and I don't need to know when, yeah, and so I don't really care about InSync or any of that other stuff. And Ticketmaster, who's just really, I can't even unsubscribe. It keeps throwing errors, and frankly, that's illegal. That's against what's called the CAN Spam Act. By the way, most places when you subscribe to something, they make you verify your email address because it's common for people to spoof other people and send Kathy a bunch of emails, for these different things. So they usually, a very reputable place will make you verify that you own the email address first when you do it from a website. That's why I say when you unsubscribe from reputable places, you're okay. Don't unsubscribe if you're not sure who it is. Just send it to junk and hope it starts catching it. We can do a thing called filters. Is anybody getting, is spam a problem? Spam a problem? Okay. There's ways to set rules, it's called, and say, because I have one that kept coming, and I say, man, I just don't want that thing. And I was able to block that email address. Which, by the way, in iOS 7, you can now block phone numbers. Certain phone numbers. So we'll click on Advanced. Oh, by the way, in Trash, you can say, if I move the deleted mail messages to the trash, and then I say, empty my trash after the message has been there a month. You don't have to do it immediately, because what happens if you do throw something away and you need it? I don't delete messages. Because if I do, I know I'm going to need that message. And until those shows came out, I always thought I was a hoarder. Well, I'm a keeper. It's a little different. So it's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right. So the next one is Advanced. There really isn't anything here for you to do settings. The real only settings under accounts is mailbox behaviors. Okay? So junk mail, don't worry about that. There's not a lot of stuff you can adjust here. It works just fine. It learns, when it's brand new, it learns what you think is junk, and that's where you have to teach it. Don't just delete something. If it's junk, tell it it's junk, and then you can delete it, but tell it it's junk first. And if you get a false positive, make sure you tell it it's not junk. Okay? Fonts and colors. This is a screen that there's a lot of different things you can adjust, and its readability. Don't expect the person on the other end to get everything the way you do it. I like to leave this as stock, but you can increase font sizes if you want. Okay? Go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but when I hit font sizes, somehow, save changes to Gmail.
Oh, you made some hit? No, because you must have accidentally made some changes in the account. Don't save.
I may have done that.
No, it would only be in there. That might have been if you did the junk mail setting or something like that. So that brings up a good point. Anytime you make a change to the account screen, it's going to prompt you to save those changes. So you may have set your junk mail or something like that, but for safety's sake, we won't change it. So here are your fonts. These are what Apple ships as stock. And you can adjust these by just hitting select, and you get your normal font menu. Okay?
That would be the case where you want some standard fonts.
Yeah, but believe it or not, these are for your readability. These aren't what's going out. There's not a lot you can do for the outgoing, and you don't want to be able to do a lot for outgoing because it can get all muddled. All right? Now, color quoted text. We're not going to worry about that because I'm going to tell you in a minute here how I hate that, and we're going to eliminate the colored text. So viewing, we talked about a little bit. Use classic layout if you want. If you're not using classic layout, very similar to your iPhone, I can choose to show, look at my email behind here. It's on 2 lines now. I can say only show me 1 line. Show me 4 lines, okay? Only if you're not in classic layout. Okay. 2 lines is kind of the stock setting. And that's one thing that might convince me to not use classic. And actually one more selection here is, you'll notice if I click this 2cc, it just shows you that it puts a little 2 right there. Watch the left hand, right under bits de jour, for instance. And And here's show contacts, like if I had people, like here's Theodora's thing if you were in my contacts address book, but I don't find that very useful. In fact, let's see if the one, yeah, see I have Sean in my, did I what? Yes, I did last night, yeah. I responded, actually, I think. Yeah, I responded. Right here.
Do you want the 2 in the CC?
I don't, to me, it's just takes up more space, you know. So, then down here, show online buddy status. That's basically if you have iChat or messages, it'll show in here if somebody's online. Not a big deal. Display unread messages with bold font. This is actually, if you watch my screen, anything unread is bold along with the blue dot. Okay. When I say blue dot, I think of the Kennedy, the blue dot in the trial with the one young Kennedy. Remember that? Florida years ago, the sexual harassment case. It was a grayed out the screen, a blue dot.
Oh, no.
Okay, my mind's sick. Forget about display remote images with HTML. Basically, if somebody sends you a nice pretty message, it's going to display as a pretty message. Doesn't hurt you a bit. Smart addresses. What this is when I click new mail or new message and I type in Sean, it just does that. Okay? So let's see what happens when I turn off smart addresses. Oop. See, I always use Sean when we're talking about something smart.
Oh.
The perfect response. See how it... The other way is it just shows you the person's name. This way it shows you their name and their email. Not a huge deal, but it's just for your own edification. Some people get a little concerned when they just see a name and don't see an email address attached to it.
Oh, so you can turn it off and get that.
Yeah, you get the whole thing. So now everybody has Sean's email address. Not like they didn't before if they got EmpowerMac emails. Okay. So view conversations. Kathy, this is what you were wondering about. Now, there's a new thing in email that's, well, it's not that new, but it's what's called conversational threads. And what that means is if Kathy and I are going back and forth and we have 5 or 6 emails going back and forth, we can either have the newest one show up or it will aggregate all of those emails together. And let me show you how that is. Let me find. So I go up first to view, not in preferences, organized by conversation. So now, let's see here. So if I go down here, okay, here's a great one. Al Tribbett, you guys all know Al. Here's a little triangle that shows me there's the messages back and forth. Bob White sent Pete and I this thing about this little app for lens tutorials for photographers. And in conversational mode, they're all grouped together. Okay? Let me show you how this looks in our other non-classic view. See how this looks here in non-classic view?
So my problem is that I lose emails. So
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody has sent me something and they've stacked it somewhere, and somehow the search isn't finding it.
Only the top.
Search will find it.
Search will find it.
But what happens is the most recent email rises to the top, as you can see here. But when I click on these, it just shows the one email. But when I click here, it shows the dialogue back and forth. Now, if I go out of conversational, let me show you back here into preferences, non-classic, or into classic view, and it does it, where was it, Al? right here. And you'll notice down here they show in a line. I don't like that. And that's the way it ships, I think, on the iPad in here. But if I want to change that, I just go up to View, and I deselect. Well, actually, while we're on this, I can expand all conversations. Notice how it expanded all the arrows? And View, collapse all conversations.
So you do have a check. You like it.
No, I don't. I'm showing you these options if you have it on.
Okay, I just turn it off.
And I just deselect it. No, if I want to turn it off, I go up to View, Organize by Conversation, and now I'm back to normal. Okay? All right. Okay. And then what all this is saying is you can change the coloring of those. Remember how they were grouped together and they showed different coloring? That's all this stuff is. Exactly. All right. The next screen is important, and this is composing. And this will also apply, like after the break, when we go to iOS in this too. The message format is defaulted to rich text, which means bold will work, and a few things will work, but mail has to be the least common denominator so everyone can read it. Okay, Sean, don't forget to ask if there's any specials and or if they're doing the barbecue today, please. Rich text format's going to be the best you can do. Plain text is like, like the old ASCII screen where you used to see, the letters and things like that. So we'll go ahead and rich text. Now, check spelling. We've all seen the little red underlines, right? So I like to have it check while I type. Some people have it check when they go to hit send. Or some people have it check never. So that's a personal preference. Then, because we talked about with IMAP, you're sending sent messages and it's showing up on all your devices, you don't have to CC yourself anymore. And what it means is you can CC yourself or BCC, and we'll talk about both of those. But what that's saying is when I send Shirley a message, I want to copy myself on it because I don't get enough email.
Yeah.
BCC just means Shirley won't see that I copied myself. We'll talk about BCC in the composition window in a minute. In fact, let's go to that right now. Since we're in composing, I'm going to hit each of these as we go. New message. When your Mac ships, the BCC field is not highlighted or not available. So, when we sent, I like to take this back to de-geekify it and think of an old office environment where you had an executive and you had an executive assistant. And if I was going to email something to that executive, I would send it to Bob Smith, president of ABC Widgets. But I know that his assistant usually takes care of most of these things, so I would CC the assistant. Because that way, Bob doesn't have to email it to his assistant. But I also might want to include someone that they don't need to see it goes to. So I go to this little checkbox right here and hit BCC. And now it's active all the time until you turn it off. It's always there. But what BCC is, I can send it to someone else and they don't see that it was sent to them. So let's talk about how this works in a minute. On the hockey team I used to be on, I would send everybody out the schedule when the game time was coming up. In that case, it was a small group of 15 people. So I would do to everybody because I wanted people to interact. Hey, I'm going to be late. Hey, I need a ride. They had everybody's email addresses by doing it that way. I could also CC. But if I want to send out something, let's say I'm a company and I sell widgets, and I need to send an email out to everybody saying we're going to be closed for the holidays on such and such a date. I don't want everyone on my list to see everybody else on my list because they don't know I sell it to him and he doesn't know this, so you put it in BCC. First of all, it looks like a personal copy to each of those individuals, but secondly, no one sees anyone else's email address. And the misconception is if I put something in BCC or CC, that I have to put something in 2. You don't. Each one of those categories works independently. No, you can. Now, the only problem is when you go to look at your sent messages, it'll be blank. Let's look at the EmpowerMac stuff I sent
I
out.
often send my movies out that way. Like I'll send it to me, and I don't want everybody to know anybody else's email address.
Right, and that's BCC. So, interesting.
Sometimes it seems to show only the first.
Sometimes it'll show the first person.
Yeah.
Sometimes it won't show anybody at all.
But sometimes it says the person's name, or sometimes it says undisclosed recipients.
Right.
How do you get that word? In the two field?
When you send it, you don't see undisclosed recipients, do you? When you get it from people, when you get it from people, it might say undisclosed recipients.
Right.
Yeah.
From a Mac, it probably won't say anything at all, which is
It says
fine.
the person's name.
It'll say the person's name, only the one person, not everybody else's.
I mean, the sender to.
Yes. Well, see, when you send it, it'll say your name, but it won't show that the other 12 people it went to.
Sometimes it seems to maybe only say the first person in the 12 people because I'm trying to.
In your sent messages, it can do that. That's what usually happens, but you're the only one that sees that.
But I would like to see every email that I send it to my mom. And I'd like
Oh, when you go to the mail, you can.
Okay, I'm not.
Yeah, I was going to show you. It's on the other side when I sent out the EmpowerMac ones. But you go to the mail, it'll show you everybody you sent it to.
Okay.
And that, when we cover contacts later, we can set up a group for that stuff. But BCC is important. It's good net etiquette to make sure that you have, you don't let everybody see everybody else's email address. That's how these spam things happen. All right, let's finish up here on preferences, composing. Now, forget the automatic sending when sending to a group. So when sending to a group, it's to show their addresses or not show their addresses. That's no big deal. We're going to talk about groups when we get into it. But here's the important setting. When sending a new message, which of my accounts do I want it to default from? Okay. Now, most of you that don't have multiple email addresses, this is no big deal. But if you have multiple email addresses, you might, if I have this AHA merchandising, it's a side job I did for Orchard Supply Hardware. So if I'm sending something to them, I want it to go from AHA merchandising. But I want my default to go from KenSpencer@Mac.com. But what that doesn't change is, so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click New Message. Boom. It automatically goes from KenSpencer@Mac.com. Doesn't mean I can't change it. I still can send it from any one of those accounts. But what happens when you reply? So, remember, KenSpencer@Mac.com is my default. So I'm going to go here. And here is an email I got. So if I reply, it goes from the address it was sent to. Automatically. Even though I've told it to go from my other address, when I do new mail, it doesn't affect reply or forward. Okay? I can still change it. I have all the same options, but it's very critical that mail replies from what it was sent to. Does that make sense? This applies to the iPad also, on the iOS device.
So that's all your email, is it?
No, I'm more than that.
So you subscribe to making different email addresses for all your different business.
Well, actually, see, if you notice, many of the... But I only check one email, or I check 2 email addresses. They're all sent to one. Yeah. See, some of these are these are essentially all the iCloud ones. KenWeb feedback is what happens when you go to iWeb, it just automatically generates that. This is this one Gmail I set up just for this company. I have multiple Gmail addresses, which we can talk about after the break a bit, but these are the 2 that I use the most. But KenSpencer.com, believe it or not, doesn't exist anywhere. But if you send an email to KenSpencer.com, it gets forwarded to me. So I don't have to go check it anywhere. Yeah, that's in my domain name registrar, though. That's with GoDaddy, so that's a little bit beyond. Okay, so the other thing that's important, and I have it deselected. So first of all, you want to, it comes stock this way. Here's how it comes configured. Actually, usually it comes configured with a count of selected mailbox on your mail, which is crazy because you just happen to have been on that mailbox and you want to send an email from it. But I say pick which one you want to be your default. But these 2 right here, quote the text of the original message. You sent me an email regarding coming to the class, or you did, about coming too early.
Yeah.
And I replied to you, and I said, no, it starts at 10. Well, why in the hell did you send me the parts at 10? Quoted below that was the information that you had sent to me. So it was contextual. So it's really good to go back and forth. After the break, I'm going to show you how you can pare that down. But the one thing I hate is increased quote level. If I've had your Mac in front of me, I've snuck in and undone it because it's my little thing to do. Increase quote level, and I'll show you why. So I've got increased quote level on. So if I reply to Jim's message, I get this stupid little bar on the side here. And how many of us have got mails where that bar keeps going across and across and across and across? And finally, it's so far over here you can't even read the message, and they're just going up and down. You got no room left. And also in some mails, it'll show up as a bunch of little carets, kind of quotation marks. So if you deselect increase quote level and turn it off, and now when I hit reply, I don't have that stupid little line there. Okay? Right before we break, I'm going to show you one last thing here because sometimes we get mail that's like that. And I wonder if I have any. If you're forwarding it, no, it increased, but people may have sent it to you like that. Let me see if this guy. No. Oh, you know what? I think you had it on yours, Kathy. Hang on. There it is. So see this? And your iPad's set up to do it automatically, but when Kathy increased the quote level, let's show you how to fix that, because I'm going to send this to Kathy. I'm going to hit reply. And now I can go up here, message, format, quote level, decrease. Oh, I think I have to highlight it, excuse me. I'll hit Command A, format, quote level, decrease. Now watch the screen. Just decreased one level, format. How many of you spent times cleaning up all these things? Many times. Quote level, decrease. So now it's a clean email. We'll do it after the break. Or we'll talk about it during break. I'm going to play the video.
So you showed us how to do this both as a default and then how to do it manually.
Well, no, it's manually. If someone sends one to you that has the quote level on it, you can take them off because you want to forward to somebody, but you want it to be clean. Okay? You used to have to go through and delete all those little quote marks. All right, Sean's going to hand out all 12 menus. Any specials today?
They actually have a sheet inside for all the specials.
Okay.
There is a salad bar. It is inside the bar itself.
Okay.
No barbecue.
No barbecue. And, let me pull the video up. Oh, let me quit the recording.